When George W. Bush and Dick Cheney were in the White House, they decided that they would not release to the public the visitors' logs from the White House. When the next president took office, that is one of the things that the new president, Barack Obama, changed at the White House. Starting a few months after President Obama was sworn in, the White House started releasing big batches of the visitors' logs for who was visiting the White House. But they released them in an interesting way. They released them online as a searchable database. And when that first batch of visitors' logs was posted, the conservative media ran through the database the most scandalous names they could think of, and some of them popped. Remember Jeremiah Wright, the controversial preacher President Obama distanced himself from during the 2008 campaign? Turns out he didn't really distance himself from Jeremiah Wright, because there is Reverend Jeremiah Wright on the White House visitors logs. Bill Ayers, the 60s bomber guy. They tried to tie President Obama to Bill Ayers in the 2008 campaign, and Barack Obama had nothing to do with Bill Ayers? What a Friday afternoon news dump. I tried to warn you, America. Reverend Wright and Bill Ayers. More from the Weekly Standard. Visitor logs have 2 visit by Bill Ayers, 1 by Jeremiah Wright. This was from the conservative blog Hot Air, doing some very damning math with this very damning information. Jeremiah Wright has visited the White House more often than General McChrystal and General Petraeus combined. Turns out, more than one person in America has the name Jeremiah Wright. The person on the White House visitors logs, it was not that Jeremiah Wright. Also, Bill Ayers, William Ayers. There's more than one person in America who has that name as well. Bertha Lewis, the lady from Acorn. Turns out she is Bertha M. Lewis. It was Bertha E. Lewis who visited the White House, probably for a tour, statistically speaking. I hope she had a nice time. In the White House, when they released these initial logs with these hundreds of thousands of names on them, they realized this was going to happen. As they released those logs, they published a blog post from a special counsel to the president explaining that people should not get too excited about individual names without further checking. When that happened, the normal media at the time mostly reported it that way. I mean, this was ABC News. White House posts visitor lists. Is that the Bill Ayers? No. Here's the Washington Post making the same point about the false positives. Here's the New York Daily News managing to be totally tabloidy about it and also accurate. In 2010, conservative media posted online this video of an official from the U.S. Department of Agriculture giving a speech to the NAACP. And in the edited excerpt that they posted, she appeared to describe how to discriminate against white people at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, how the government could favor black people and hurt white people. The normal media picked up and ran with the story for a little while because it was making such a big noise on the right. Turns out the excerpt that they posted of Shirley Sherrod talking about racial discrimination by the government was part of a long parable she was telling about why racial discrimination by the government is a terrible thing that should never be done. Everybody was very embarrassed. The Department of Agriculture rescinded firing her, offered her old job back. Maybe you would like a better job. We're very sorry. The NAACP, they said that they felt they had been snookered into criticizing her when the initial tape came out. They felt tricked. Conservative media found 3 women who said they all had sex with Senator Menendez for money, until the women all said, actually, nah, no, they didn't actually have sex with Senator Bob Menendez for money. Somebody paid them to say that they did. St. Lucie County had 140% voter turnout. How do you get 140% turnout? You can't have more people voting than are registered to vote in a county. That's crazy. That's obvious fraud. So that's how President Obama stole the election, 140%. Turns out what that actually was roughly 70% voter turnout, but the ballot was 2 pages. So if you count each page as its own ballot, then math is hard, Barbie. One reporter basically said sarcastically to a source, "What, do you think he got paid by Friends of Hamas or something?" And so then you get, in conservative media, sources say Chuck Hagel was paid by Friends of Hamas.
There was a report that came out last week, not confirmed yet, but we're also not denying it very vigorously, that one of the groups behind the speeches may have been an outfit called Friends of Hamas. That is not going to...
That has a ring to it, doesn't it?
Friends of Hamas is not a thing that exists. The whole idea of Friends of Hamas was a joke that the conservative media ran with as if this was a real group that really was paying the U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel. This is like when Mitch McConnell fell for the satire that said prisoners at Guantanamo were getting GI Bill benefits. Senator Mitch McConnell wrote to the Pentagon for clarification on this very troubling report about Guantanamo prisoners getting GI Bill. And now we've got a new one. President Obama this weekend made his formal announcement that his nominee to succeed Attorney General Eric Holder is federal prosecutor Loretta Lynch from New York. There is one case Lynch was involved in that few are talking about. See, sure, the lamestream media doesn't want you talking about this. But that's why we have the brave conservative media to dig this stuff out and tell America the hard truths that the lamestream media... Quote, Loretta Lynch was part of President Clinton's Whitewater defense team in 1992. That's what they don't want to talk about. She's part of a Clinton scandal. Sure, nobody really remembers what that scandal was because it was never quite clear what the scandalous behavior was, but it definitely was scandal-ish. Quote, the connection to Whitewater ought to provide additional fodder for Republicans during Loretta Lynch's confirmation hearings. The Loretta Lynch who was just nominated to be Attorney General, she was not a lawyer involved in the Whitewater scandal. It was a whole different Loretta Lynch, who has absolutely nothing to do with the Attorney General nominee on the right. They're both named Loretta Lynch. Breitbart's attack on Obama Attorney General nominee goes after the wrong Loretta Lynch. Washington Post, Breitbart News attacked the wrong Loretta Lynch. So it used to be the wrong Bertha Lewis. Now it's the wrong Loretta Lynch when they tried to save face by adding a correction to their story. But then brackets corrected. Then they left the entire story intact about how President Obama's nominee to be the next Attorney General represented the Clintons in Whitewater, and then you get to the italicized slight correction at the bottom. The Loretta Lynch identified earlier as the Whitewater attorney was, in fact, a different attorney. The story's still up right now. A scandal on WorldNet Daily, one of my favorite conspiracy theory websites about the Obama administration. This one is from teaparty.net. They have a clip from Fox News about how President Obama is going to be impeached. He may not have a strategy, but we do. Impeach Obama. Click here to donate. Look, Obama's Attorney General nomination, Loretta Lynch, represented Clinton's during Whitewater. And no matter how stuff gets corrected or laughed at or ridiculed or even occasionally ignored in the real media, on the right, this is what the news looks like, and this stuff never dies. It's this parallel universe that we've got. I mean, conservatives have built themselves a very popular, very successful media landscape that doesn't just tell conservatives things that they want to hear in terms of opinion. They just make stuff up. They make up news stories that aren't true. And when they get corrected in other places, they never disappear from the conservative media. And this is, not just now, but increasingly, what American conservatives consume as their news diet. Because who knows what they're going to make up next?